I was living in San Francisco, and I got into a street fight in San Jose, as it turns out. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I managed to escape the police, which was pretty cool. The woman that I was fighting, she ended up getting arrested, which was good because she was an arsehole. And I did actually beat her up. So, which is not one of my finest points in my life, but the following day I was like, I need to be somewhere where I can channel this shit. So I joined a kickboxing club, and I didn't look back. I knew, like when I walked into the weights gym when I was 21, it was like a like it was like I was in my place of religion, you know. So it was the same when I walked into the kickboxing club. I knew exactly where I needed to be. I didn't come from a very good background. My parents were diabolical. My dad left. Mum was you know, physically and mentally abusive. So there was a lot of anger in there. So it was the best place for me to be, in a controlled environment where I could release some of that pent up aggression. And yeah, I joined a full contact gym when I came back to Britain, and then within 3 years I was a world champion. So, you know, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah. It's quite funny when I tell people I'm 52 because they laugh. Yeah. Because I don't think I represent myself as a usual 52-year-old. I teach Thai boxing, I teach weightlifting, I teach powerlifting, I teach teeny tiny humans how to swim as well. I see swim. Yeah. Anything to do with sport, I do. I've stepped in and out of jiu-jitsu for the last 20 odd years, but because I'd started strike fighting, as you well know, do jiu-jitsu, I had after my first strike fight was against a current British champion, which is unusual for a novice. So I was a novice fighting a woman that had 12 fights, and I went in and I beat her up. So that propelled me onto the fighting map, and then they were already talking about me being a champion after my first fight, and I was like, oh my God, like I have to seize this opportunity. And I was dipping in and out of jiu-jitsu, but when I was going to the classes, I was having to fight for my life, and I thought, if I get injured, this is gonna ruin my, my fight career. So I concentrated on the strike fighting, became a champion at that. But let's say 2019, probably August 2019, I was walking my dog. I live in town, just down the road here, and broad daylight, a guy jumped out at me down in the common, completely naked, and he had a scarf on his face. And we can laugh about it, but it wasn't funny. Like it was really predatory. So he had a scarf on his face, a scarf on his head. So when the police said to me, did he have any defining, marks on his body? I couldn't tell you the colour of his hair, his eyes, or anything because he was covered up, right? But he had a massive hard on as well, right? And I just got angry. But then I felt violated as well. He didn't touch me, but I thought, okay, I started to worry about the young girls that are down there. And whilst I can handle myself, I know because I used to work on the door, fighting somebody, straight fighting, if they're on drugs, it don't work because they can't feel anything. I thought I need to know how to put somebody to sleep quickly. If he decides he's going to attack me, which invariably he could do, I could walk down there again 6 months down the line. He decides that he's going to step up his game. I want to know how to protect myself. So that's why I stepped into the jiu-jitsu. I was doing private lessons, and then I started here uh, with Jeff. I knew Jeff 20 years ago. His career was taking off. My career was doing that. So we crossed over in the same gym, and I reached out to him, and he said, we'd love to have you down here, Janine. So I come down here and, yeah, try and learn my craft. It's tricky. It's the stand-up game is so much easier than the jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu is so much. I think you've got your foundation of your side control, your mount. You learn all that, but then there's so much more involved in positional stuff that you have to remember. But it keeps me on my toes as well. I think in getting into my 50s, you can kind of think that you're too old for stuff, and I never want to be in that place where I pigeonhole myself, where I'm sat at home not waiting to die. I still want to keep challenging myself and pushing myself and being that person that sets the standard for everybody else that says I'm too old. And you say, no, you're not. I like the physicality, the training. I like the challenge. Do I like fighting? I think yes. I think I'm all right at it. My my desire to want to win is not as bad as it used to be. I'm still competitive, but my ego is a little bit more contained. And I think that jiu-jitsu is a much more humbling game. And I think you have to learn the art of submission and actually knowing when to tap out. And I figured that if I'm walking off the mats every time uninjured, I've done a good job, and it's okay to tap out and it's okay to say that's enough for me. And I'm finding the people that you want to roll with, that you're going to have fun with, that's still competitive without walking away with your knee busted up or your shoulder twisted out. I just don't want to be sat at home on the couch watching Coronation Street. I want to be here in a community where I'm pushing myself still. I still have that desire, that chi to want to push myself. It's a real humbling. You get to know who you are as an individual and really understand who you are as an individual. And it seems to people outside of it, oh my God. I was with a group of people yesterday and they were talking about making me more fluffy as an individual. And I'm like, listen, just because I'm not putting loads of makeup on and walking around with frilly dresses doesn't mean that I'm not feminine. I just like different things to you. That's all. And I find my avenue and physicality in the stuff like lifting weights. I like lifting heavy weights. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel capable as a person. I've had to look after myself for a really long time. So I don't ever want to be in a place where I'm a vulnerable person, but I don't want to be vulnerable where I'm physically vulnerable. The first book is about resilience, and it's a tough read. So there's abuse in there, there's drug taking in there, there's me just out there losing my shit, but then it also finishes with me becoming a world champion. So there's a real roller coaster ride of, just because you come from shit doesn't mean that you have to end up in shit. But unfortunately, abuse and dysfunction ends up following you around. So I end up in dysfunctional relationships. So I ended up marrying a bipolar alcoholic, and that's the second book. So the second book is about liberation and actually finding out that I keep perpetuating that cycle of bullshit with these people and coming out the other side of it and going, you know what, I don't want to be around these people anymore. So that's what the books are about, really. Yeah, they're not easy reads. It's quite funny when people meet me, they think, oh, she's quite funny. They think they're going to be funny, and they are funny, but they're tough. They're really tough, and I don't sugarcoat my language either. So if you're easily offended, don't read them.